Hey there everyone, Griff Hamlin here. Welcome and thanks for joining me today. This video is going to be ever so slightly more philosophical than others. And what I mean by that is we're going to talk a little bit about maybe a different way to look at your fretboard. If there's one question that I get probably more than any other, or one goal I'll say that my students often have, it's how do I know the fretboard inside and out, which in and of itself doesn't make a whole lot of sense, actually, but it may be a question that you've thought to yourself, boy, if I just knew my fretboard better. Okay, well, really what it boils down to a lot of times is it's not a question of knowing it or not, it's a question of how you know it. We have a lot of different ways that we perceive and visualize and create what I call a mental model of the fretboard. Probably the most common for many people is the boxes. You know, we have box 1, box 2, box 3, box 4, and box 5. We're down here. Okay, so that's probably the most common way of visualizing the fretboard, and it's a great way to visualize the fretboard because so many classic licks come from that visualization. Right, that's all, that's box 1 stuff. That's, the Albert King, the Stevie Ray Vaughan, all that kind of stuff comes from sort of that box idea. Not all of it, but a lot of it. I shouldn't say all of it. I should never use absolutes. Okay, but there are other ways to look at the fretboard, okay? And one way, if you've ever seen a video I did a long time ago called the 4-Note Solo, there's a different way to look at the fretboard, and it's more by roots and octaves, okay? And I covered this a bit in a course I did a few years ago called Soloing Without Scales, and in fact, if you like this idea and you're interested in it, I'll leave a link to that nearby. It's older, but it's this kind of idea. But it's this idea of looking at your fretboard by root notes and octaves, and really not so much by boxes at all. Okay, kind of ignoring that. And what that does is by having a different view of the fretboard, your sort of natural tendency is to come up with some different sounds because you're not looking at the fretboard the same way. Another option is what's called caged. A lot of people have heard of caged. Caged is another way to look at the fretboard that may or may not give you some different things that you might play. Generally speaking, the more different ways you can have to look at the fretboard, the better off you are. And really the boxes and caged and this idea that I'm going to show you today are the 3 biggies, I'll say. Caged is a little bit more complex, and so that's why I tend not to get into it very much, because if you try to do caged, it tends to overlap with some other stuff. So depending on what your purposes are, caged probably isn't all that necessary. It's not to say it's a bad system, it's a fantastic system. It just takes a little more work up front to really get the hang of it. But what we're going to talk about is this idea of roots and octaves, I'll call it. Okay, so if you think about the fact that, okay, see, this is an A, right? And it's here at my 6th string, 5th fret. And any note here, the octave above it is 2 strings and 2 frets. Okay, so if I go up 2 strings and over 2 frets, I get the next occurrence of that note. And that works anywhere. There's G, there's G. It even works on, say here's E at the 7th fret of the 5th string. There's the other E. I went up 2 frets, 2 strings and up 2 frets. Okay? That always works unless we cross the B string. If we are using the B string or we cross it. So let's say that I choose to start on this D at the 7th fret of the 3rd string. I'll go up 2 strings, but because I crossed or touched the B string, the 2nd string, I have to go up 3 frets. So there's 2 Ds. If I go to A here, and I go up 2 strings, I'm on the 2nd string, the B string, so I gotta go up 3. Okay, so it's a very simple rule. Up 2 strings and 2 frets is the next octave. It's the next occurrence of the same note. Unless you're touching or crossing the second string, the B string, in which case it's up 2 strings and 3 frets. It's really not that complicated, okay? And the first thing I would suggest that you do is simply practice picking any random note and then finding that octave above it or below it. If you go down 2 strings and 2 frets to the left instead of 2 frets to the right, or 2 frets descending, I should say, in case you're left-handed, it would not be that way. 2 frets descending, 2 frets down. That would also give you the octave below, okay? And so you can find quickly all these octaves. They're all over the place, okay? Well, there's a lot of cool things that you can do if you simply focus on those octaves, okay? Let's say that we're playing in the key of G. I like the key of G. I use it a lot as an example. Let's say that we're playing in the key of G, all right? And let's say that I want to do some sort of solo idea. Well, there's a G, okay, but it's low, and I don't usually start solos down here. Solos don't generally happen on the bottom 2 strings. So I'm going to go up to the next one, which is this one, and that's cool, but it's still a little bit low, admittedly. So I'm going to go up to this one. Okay, so here I am at the 8th fret of the 2nd string to this G, right? And I'm going to use my simple, I'll say 4-note solo pattern. Right? Okay, well, what's to keep me from also doing that here at this G? That works very well. Okay, so you can see that same idea could be moved around. And in fact, I could go to this G. Here's the one at the 3rd string. Now the pattern changes slightly because, again, I've got that B string involved, so I got to add a fret. There's another one. Okay, so any G I can find, I can use that idea. Okay? Or what if I wanted to take a pattern I already know? Look at that, there's a little bit of box 1, right? Okay, well there's another G. I could do box 1 again. Oh, that didn't work out so good, because that's the B string. Slide up a fret. And there I am at G again. And I can't go all the way, but I can get that far. So if I want to walk up, I certainly can, and I can get two and a half octaves right there. Okay, so there's a lot that you can do. You could do like arpeggios, or maybe 7th arpeggios. If you want to reach for it, you can go up there. Maybe I could do a different kind of run that goes something like that. Again, any little idea that you can come up with, even just 2 or 3 or 4 notes, when you translate it from octave to octave to octave, it actually starts to connect together. Because if you think about it, right, a pentatonic scale, which is sort of our fundamental building block for blues and rock soloing in general, is 5 notes. Okay, well, if you can come up with 3, you've got the equivalent of an arpeggio. It may not actually be an arpeggio, but it's the equivalent number of notes. 4 notes is a 7th chord arpeggio, so you're already pretty close to our 5 pentatonic notes. So they'll start to connect together real quick. All right, so again, this is just an idea to play with. It's an idea to put on a jam track and just pick a key and just try to play some little melody, some little idea, some little pattern that you like, and then move it to another octave, and then move it to another spot and another spot. Just keep bouncing around the different roots and the different octaves and just listen to what it sounds like. And pretty soon you might come up with something that you really, really dig and that connects really well with other things. And again, I do have some more of this kind of stuff in Soloing Without Scales, and you may want to check that out. But this is also something that you can simply experiment with and just come up. There's just, so many different cool ideas that can come out of your fingers just because you're looking at the fretboard in a different way. All right, so I hope you got something out of this video. I hope you dug it. This was fun for me to make. This is a method that I use a lot, and so I've never really thought of a good way to share it. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I do, and I'll talk to you soon.